It's really normal to experience challenges with sleep when we're young. This shows up as either having a hard time falling asleep, staying asleep, or just feeling tired all the time. In part 1 of our sleep series, we talked about how getting enough quality sleep can make you feel better. Sleep also boosts brain function and problem-solving abilities. We looked at what happens when you don't get enough sleep, the different stages of sleep, the body clock, and how being a teenager or a young adult can impact our sleep. So if you missed our part 1 video, I really recommend you go back and watch it. And knowing the science behind some of the strategies I'll teach you today can help make them make sense. In this video, we'll talk about how to train your brain to sleep well, called sleep hygiene. Hi everyone, my name's Emily and I'm a qualified young person's wellbeing practitioner at Centre 33. This video will explore some guided self-help strategies designed to help young people aged 13 to 25 experiencing difficulties with sleep. Guided self-help focuses on the present, what's going on for you now, and introduces you to practical tips and strategies to use in your day-to-day life. By this means, in this video, we will look at making changes to your environment, to your behaviour, and to your thinking processes. We're also going to look at how we can keep a sleep diary, and importantly, right at the end of the video, there is a checklist that you can screenshot which summarises all of the strategies that we've mentioned. And then we'll show you some resources that you can use to seek some further support with mental health or practical things. Research shows us that we can train our brains to sleep better. The practice of making our brain sleep better is called sleep hygiene. Sleep hygiene means going through a routine that trains your brain and body to know when to sleep. So, like a muscle that strengthens with practice, sleeping well is a skill we can develop. So, because you're trying to start your automatic nervous system to switch on your sleep cycle, it's vital to use a routine. We can think about our minds as being like dogs that reflexively start drooling when it's dinner time, as they learn to associate the activities with these responses outside of their control. We can't force ourselves to sleep, but we can train our brain to know when to sleep, so to associate our evening activities with sleep and know to start our sleep cycles. So you can start by creating a wind down routine before bedtime that the brain associates with sleeping. To do this, we want to keep a consistent schedule whenever possible. So try to go to bed and wake up around the same time each day. Waking up and going to bed at similar times every day is one of the simplest but hardest things that you can do to impact your sleep positively. Although we aim to train our brains to associate sleep with that pre-chosen time, unfortunately we can't fully control when we fall asleep. However, we can control when we wake up and choose to get out of bed. This scheduling means that even if it takes you 3 hours to get to sleep one evening, you should keep your wake-up time the same the following day. So you might feel tired for a day or perhaps even several, but eventually your body will be so tired that it has to start falling asleep when you want. Now, it's important to know that it takes time for something to become a routine, which means we need to stick with it for many weeks in a row. So don't give up if you don't notice the benefits immediately. Researchers disagree on changing a sleep schedule. Some people think making small, gradual changes is best. For example, if your current bedtime is 1 AM and you want it to be 10 PM, they might suggest first aiming for 12:30 for a few nights, and then 12, and so on. Similarly, they would mean gradually altering your wake-up time, so this isn't always possible with school and college demands. But again, this process allows your body clock time to adapt slowly. However, others recommend a more drastic approach where you go straight from a 1 a.m. bedtime to a 10 p.m. bedtime. Similarly, you get up at your new desired wake-up time, despite what time you actually fell asleep. This plan makes it more likely that you're going to be unable to sleep at your chosen time for a few nights, which can feel very frustrating and make you very tired in the morning. But it will also mean reaching your desired new sleep schedule much quicker. So have a think about which approach would work better for you. And here's an example of a sleep schedule that takes more of a gradual process to help guide you. We know it's really hard to keep a routine, so we want to aim for as much consistency as we can. It's better to keep 4 nights the same than 0 nights, so don't quit if you find it almost impossible to keep to your routine every single night of the week. Just anything or any consistency is better than none at all. In addition to bedtime routine, there are some things that you can do during the day that are going to improve your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. Certain things we do during the day and in the run-up to bedtime can affect how easily we fall asleep. So now it's time to think about your behaviours and see if there's any changes that you can make. Too much stimulation keeps us alert, making it hard to sleep. So for example, you can try doing some quieter activities, such as reading a book, having a bath, meditation, yoga, mindfulness, some breathing exercises, craft activities, drawing. I've said reading already, but read another book, playing an instrument, or spending time with pets, because these help trigger calm. Cut out screen time before bed. These are bad too close to bedtime for several reasons. Firstly, blue light mimics the sunlight and signals the brain to stop producing melatonin, so this is a biological trigger to wake up. Research shows us that blue light triggers alertness and red or yellow light triggers calmness. So if you must use your screens before bed, check to see if it has a night shift setting or a blue light filter. This will shift your screen settings towards the red or the yellow range. Also, put your phone on what I like to call moon mode, but other people call this do not disturb. This bit is really hard, I know, but we want to avoid looking at anything stressful, so messages from subject group chats at school or college, especially subject group chats if you're at uni. Or looking at work emails. This also extends to looking at the news or Facebook where there might be stressful information. Depending on what technology you're using, screen time can trigger the alerting system in your brain. Video games, for example, are often exciting or stressful for those playing them, which keeps your brain alert. Similarly, seeing something on social media that's upsetting or triggers difficult thoughts can stimulate your brain and keep you awake longer. Sometimes using technology replaces time sleeping. I'll watch one more episode. We've all been there, but sometimes you can get so caught up in your screens that you actively choose to go to bed later. For these reasons, you should get rid of your phone, tablet or games console in the hour leading up to bedtime to promote sleep, even when using the blue light filter. And some young people find that replacing that time with something calming and enjoyable, such as stroking pets or watering plants, quite helpful. And we know this is really hard, and if you can't manage the whole hour, I encourage you not to give up, as any time away from screens is better than no time away. Even if we can get off screens for 15 minutes before bed, it can drastically change how we feel. Another thing you want to do is look at your diet. Did you know that your diet may impact your sleep? Firstly, we want to avoid sugary snacks before bed, as these boost our energy, which increases nighttime restlessness. For most of us, consuming caffeine can influence the length of time it takes to fall asleep, your quality of sleep, and how long you sleep. So we want to avoid caffeine for 5 to 6 hours before bedtime. Notably, many products that we might associate with bedtime contain caffeine, such as hot chocolate, so we're best to avoid them alongside the other products we've got on the screen. Now, this includes energy drinks, as these keep us awake for longer, making it harder to sleep. We also want to avoid rich and fatty foods before bed. These are more difficult to digest and could lead to indigestion and heartburn, which can interfere with sleep. We've talked about the need to avoid caffeine and sweet treats too close to bedtime, but it's also really essential to know that we won't be able to sleep when we're hungry. And if we have something important like an exam the next day, this isn't the time to be trying to restrict our food intake. So adding a small evening stack of certain foods can really help aid our sleep. It's worth noting that more research needs to be done around this area, but these foods either contain a natural melatonin or an amino acid called tryptophan that make it easier to sleep. Sleepy snack food might be almonds, bananas, oatmeal, cherries, sugar-free cereal, and turkey, as well as anything dairy. And I just mentioned cheese. You might have been told that cheese causes bad dreams growing up, but this is actually a myth. It's suspected that this comes from Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol story, where Scrooge blames seeing the three ghosts on eating a mouldy piece of cheese. Research suggests that a warm glass of milk before bed is as effective as sleep medications, so you might want to try it. And if you really don't like this idea, then just stick to water. Next up, it's time to get moving. Scientists have investigated the relationship between sleep and exercise extensively. Specifically, moderate to vigorous exercise can improve our sleep quality and make us fall asleep quicker when we shut our eyes. This improvement happens in three main ways. 1. Staying active gradually tires our bodies, promoting a better night's sleep. 2. Activity helps release tension, meaning we experience less stress at bedtime. And 3. We experience a drop in body temperature after exercising, which aids in better sleep. And we only need to get moving for 20 to 30 minutes each day to feel the benefit. While exercise is great for helping us sleep, we want to do this during the daytime and not in the 2 to 3 hours before bed, as the release of adrenaline we experience might have the opposite effect and keep us awake. However, this rule will be slightly different for those who experience sensory sensitivities to differences in how we process sensory information. For example, suppose you're someone who experiences hyposensitivity, so undersensitive to vestibular stimuli. our movement sense. In that case, we might want to try increasing your movement before bed, but moving or exercising without increasing adrenaline too much. Or we could try using a weighted blanket to help increase the stimulation. Light and darkness have a key role in our sleep, so we want to think about these in our pre-bed and daily routines. Light stops you from falling asleep. When light enters your eyes, it signals your brain to start producing more melatonin. Frequent exposure to artificial light disrupts your circadian rhythms, keeping us alert and less sleepy. So, it is essential to have a dimmed light in the run-up to and during sleep times to aid better sleep. It can be helpful to get as much natural light as possible in the morning. For example, you could achieve light exposure by opening your curtains first and letting the light flood your room. Further, you should also get outside and participate in something active you enjoy, such as a walk, cycle or dance, or even reading in the garden, ideally for 30 minutes. This exposure will suppress melatonin and help you feel more alert. Another thing you can try is a relaxation routine. So we can try out relaxation or mindfulness exercises when we're stressed or worried to help us get to sleep. And also calming activities before bed, such as meditation or listening to calming music, can help release our tension and improve our sleep. I'm first going to talk you through an example of mindfulness, which is a grounding strategy using our senses, which we can do when we get into bed before we turn out the lights. So we're going to start off by looking around and naming 5 things that we can see. So it might be a poster on the wall, your blinds, your curtains, your desk, your lamp, your carpet, your rug, your teddy bear, a pillow, and lots of other personal things that you've got within your bedroom. 4 things we can touch. So this could be the softness of your blanket or the sheets, the pajamas that you're wearing, the socks on your feet or the carpet, things that you can feel. Next, 3 things you can hear. You might hear cars outside or birds, you might hear a dog barking, you might hear music, you might hear your own breathing, you might hear a clock ticking, there might be footsteps or talking or whispers in the corridor outside. 2 things you can smell. So maybe you can smell your sheets, some shampoo in your hair, you can smell a teddy that's with you. And then finally, 1 thing you can taste. This might be the toothpaste from brushing your teeth, it might be water that you've had beside your bed or the milk if you took hot milk to bed. It could be the air, it could be a snack, it could be nothingness. So with the 5 senses exercise, it doesn't matter what order we do this in. We don't always have to do 5 things we can see. We could choose 3 things we can see and 4 things that we can hear, for example. But sometimes it can be helpful to write this down by your bed on a post-it note or a piece of paper to remind you to do it and to remind you what the steps are. We can also try mental exercises, so we might count backwards from 100 by 7, which is quite tricky, or we might think of an object and draw around it in our mind. And we might like to joke about this one quite a lot, but this strategy is better than we give it credit. We can try visualizing sheep grazing by a long fence, and we can count these sheep or think up something more interesting and unique to you. We want to experience each breath and pay attention to how we feel. So we could try a breathing exercise called the hot chocolate breathing activity. So we might start off by imagining that we've got a mug of hot chocolate. We want to breathe in through our nose to smell the hot chocolate for 7 seconds. Hold the breath for 2 seconds, and then breathe out through your mouth to cool the hot chocolate for 11 seconds. and then repeat this activity for a few minutes. But for brownie points, you could actually try doing this with your glasses of warm milk if you plan to give the strategy a go that we talked about earlier. We can also try progressive muscle relaxation. Research has shown that when we focus on tensing muscle groups, it's very difficult to think about the things that are making us anxious. So we're going to tense our muscles in a series for 5 seconds and release whilst thinking of the word relax, noticing how different it feels when you relax the muscles. So to start with our hands, we might clench our left fist first and then relax it, and then do the same with our right fists. We might bend our elbows and tense our arm and bicep and then relax. With our neck, we might press our heads back and roll from side to side slowly, feeling the tension moving and then bringing our heads back to a comfortable position. Our face, we might focus on our jaw and forehead, so we might lower our eyebrows into a frown. It's quite hard to do. And then raise them, and after 5 seconds, relax them and clenching our jaw for 5 seconds and then relaxing. Our chest, we might take a deep breath in. Notice our chest rising, hold for 5 seconds and then relax again. And our stomach, we're going to hold this in as tight as we can and then relax. And then finally our legs, we might straighten our legs and stretch them out as far as we can, bending our feet up towards our face. And then after 5 seconds of tensing, we might wiggle our toes and then relax. Now again, we don't need to do this in the sequence that I've just talked about. It could be something that makes sense to you. You can start from your toes to your head to your toes, or do this completely randomly. And if you Google progressive muscle relaxation after watching this video, there'll be lots of scripts online that give you some calming ideas or suggestions, the ways in which you could give this a go. Another way we can practice mindfulness is to imagine that you're sitting in a wood by a stream. Look around you and really picture what that place is like. What can you see? What can you touch? What can you taste? What can you smell? And what can you hear? Visualize the worries in your mind being written onto the leaves of a tree. Watch as the leaves, your worries, drift down into the water, and notice the leaves gradually floating away from you down the stream and out of sight. Then say to yourself, I notice that I'm worrying about this, but I don't have to engage with it. I can choose to let it pass. We can also think of our anxious thoughts as like lily pads on a river. They come and they go. So we must notice that they're there, but they drift down the river and go if we don't engage in them. The purpose of these exercises is not to distract us from our thoughts or replace those thoughts, but to help us focus on what is happening around us and where we are, rather than our body sensations or what we are thinking. Did you know that Headspace has a free sleepcast for sleeping soundly on YouTube? You can check it out here using this link. Again, we're trying to create associations for your brain to trigger that sleep response. You only want your bed for sleeping and relaxing activities. If your brain associates your bed with games, socializing or working, your brain is going to learn to associate your bed with alertness and not sleep. So through learning about routine, it can seem like there is a formula for sleep. Considering the importance of sleep, it's okay to be a little bit like Goldilocks with this. We want things to be just right. We're now going to turn our focus to our environment. Research shows us that certain factors in our environments can make it more difficult to fall asleep. So I want you to think about your sleeping environment and see if there are any changes you can make so that falling asleep feels more like a dream than a nightmare. Realistically, young people's bedrooms aren't always the most relaxing of places. An ideal bedroom environment must be free of distractions, quiet, dark, clutter-free, and cool. So what that means for our first strategy is that we're going to think about what you can go home and change when you finish the video. Factor 1 is decoration. Think about the colours in your bedroom. A room screaming with bright orange walls won't help you get a good night's sleep. Instead, you should try opting for neutral colours. You might not be able to redecorate, but that doesn't stop you from getting creative or problem solving. So what you might want to do, for example, if you have quite a loud feature wall, photos, artwork and posters, is position your bed so that you're facing away from it while sleeping. The people you live with may complain about how messy your bedroom is, but science shows us that they have a point. Did you know that a tidy bedroom does help you sleep? You may not be able to make the bedroom a complete clutter-free zone, but try to keep it as tidy as possible. Put clothes away, dirty cups in the dishwasher, and tidy your working area. Clutter can make you feel worried and stressed, especially if you see a pile of schoolwork you need to do. Although you sleep with your eyes closed and can't see the clutter when you're asleep, it's the last thing you look at before you drift off, which may influence any anxious or worrying thoughts. Light and sound can trigger alertness, so make it harder to sleep. If you need some light or sound to help you fall asleep, that's fine. Just make sure it's appropriate, like a low emitting nightlight with a soft glow or a gentle, relaxing piece of music. White noise left on all night can also be useful, especially if there are external environmental sounds you can't control, such as busy roads, railways, noisy neighbours, or animals cock-a-doodle-dooing or barking. Sometimes noise and light are outside our control, and this can feel very frustrating. Here, I would encourage you to use problem solving again. So if we don't have blackout blinds and we get the sun or streetlight glare, we can try and hang a darker towel up over our window to block it. And if it's noisy at home, we can put a towel under our door to muffle out the sound here, or try using some earplugs. Remember the sleep cycles we talked about in part 1 of this series. Keep anything you have in place to help you fall asleep consistently throughout the night. No one is going to sleep well if they're uncomfortable, so comfort is a must. Get into your bed and decide, is it a comfy and inviting place to be? If it is not, why not? Sometimes we outgrow our mattresses from when we're younger, and we can't always replace this, but we can consider changing our pillows, adding more blankets, making it softer from the things that we find at home. We often tend to make our sleeping environment warmer than needed, thinking this might help us sleep, when science tells us that a colder room will aid better sleep. However, between 16 to 18 degrees is what we think is an ideal temperature. Finally, we're going to talk about changes to your thinking processes. It's very typical to find yourself worrying or overthinking during the evening because we're alone and more aware of our thoughts, which can stop us from sleeping. But the good news is that there are a few things that we can do about this. If this does affect you, the first thing that we're going to suggest is trying the relaxation activities that I talked you through earlier in the video. Another strategy we can use is to keep a worry record. We want to start by asking ourselves 2 questions. 1, can I do anything about this worry right now? 2, is worrying about this now going to help me sleep? If the answer is no, it then helps to write down the worry to look at and problem solve another time being not right now when you're trying to go to sleep. Another tip to help you is trying to keep a notepad and pen by your bed to help you remember to do this, write down your worries and keep that worry record. Navigating life can be complex and a struggle, so we might find ourselves experiencing more worries and anxieties at times. Things such as relationships, friendships, family life, school, exams, studying, or a change in your life such as moving home or school can all contribute. The list of things to worry about and consider is endless, and it's common for our brains to engage in these thoughts lots when we're trying to sleep. It's important to take some time to work through these thoughts, feelings and emotions outside of bedtime, and if you find these worries still persist after trying our strategies, we recommend looking at our anxiety, confidence and low mood strategy videos to help with some of the things that you can try during the day. Talking is amazing. If you have someone you feel safe talking to, it can be really helpful to put those worries into perspective. However, if you feel your anxieties and worries are getting harder to deal with, speak to your GP or organisations such as Young Minds, or reach out to us at Centre 33. If you're not sure what's affecting your sleep and can't understand why, keeping a sleep diary is a helpful strategy to work out what's happening with our sleep. The diary can help us identify patterns, track our sleep cycle, and work out how much we're getting. We can also identify what habits we might be falling into which impact our sleep and allow us to problem solve. We want to complete the diary for at least 2 weeks and also share this with our GP if our sleep issues won't go away. And the NHS recommends that if you've been feeling constantly tired for more than 4 weeks, it's a good idea to see your GP so they can confirm or rule out a medical condition that could be causing your tiredness. Here is an example of what a sleep diary might look like. So we'd recommend for you to screenshot the video now and save this as a template. Some top tips for completing the sleep diaries are: keep the diary beside your bed. This way you're more likely to fill it in at the time and get the details accurate. It doesn't matter what day you start the diary on, simply fill it in on day 1 and move through the week to day 7. If the diary isn't large enough, make additional notes on a separate sheet. And finally, be honest when you're filling in the diary. So this completes our strategy video. What I've got for you here is a good night's sleep checklist. I want you to tick off all the things you already do and discover what else you need to do to improve your sleep. If you haven't watched the whole video, we recommend trying out the things you've marked with a cross to improve your sleep. Again, pause the video now and take a screenshot. However, after trying these strategies, if you find that your sleep problems stick around, we really recommend talking to your GP to discuss further support that you might need around this. You can always reach out to Centre 33 for support. We can help with practical issues and emotional needs. You may also find it difficult to know who to turn to for mental health support, so here are some resources that might be useful. Thanks for listening. I hope you all sleep well. Remember, it will take time to see the benefits of improving your sleep hygiene, so I urge you to stick with it.